Hi, I'm Kim Wilson,
And I'm Natasha Marchewka.
and this is Speechless.
Speechless. Speechless.
First and foremost, we're going to share our beverages as we do with our guests. What did you
Yes.
bring, Kay?
I have tequila and soda.
Oh, yes, that's
Ooh.
my girl.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
What did you bring, Kim?
I made a coconut gin smash.
Ooh.
And can I be honest? It has blueberries in it. Can I be honest? The coconut milk separated. Is that bad?
Oh.
It doesn't taste bad.
Well, alcohol
Oh.
and coconut milk. I'm not
Yeah,
And I
sure.
tried to blend it.
Okay.
Oh, that
how
makes sense.
how
that
is it?
Delicious.
Okay.
So there's gin,
Lime,
lime,
coconut milk,
lime and the coconut.
lime and the coconut, and a little bit of what do you call the sugar water that you
simple
Agave
syrup.
simple
or-
syrup?
Simple syrup. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
But
taking a
it's-
cue
oh, it's-
from
yeah.
from Jen and Koyak. I got the Deep
Oh.
Eddy ruby red grapefruit vodka. So it's
That's good stuff. That's a good
I've never
Paloma.
tried it. So I'm just gonna have it on the rocks. So we're going pretty hardcore here, gals, today.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh,
Cheers.
mine's a double. So
Oh.
This is going to be a good interview.
Woo,
oh my God.
that is
Mm.
very interesting and
Yeah,
delicious from
it's
Austin.
it's good with a little grapefruit juice
I bet.
or a Paloma and a little lime. That's
Ooh.
good.
Yum, super
Mm.
yum. All right.
Do you guys edit? Do you edit?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I
Have you met me? Natasha's always like, we need to edit you out, Kim. I'm like, okay.
Well, I'm very talkative, so in a one-on-one or a two-on-one situation, not so much in a large group, but like so I was just like, oh my God, I have to get a hold of myself.
Not with us.
Right.
Yeah, we edit. We'll like cut out some sections.
Yeah.
And we actually like to keep our podcasts short, webcasts short, like 20, 25 minutes, where some people do an hour. We just,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's why we only have 3 questions for you, because we figured they were definitely in depth enough that we're going to cover quite a lot with you.
And we wanted to be more deep with you than most
shallow.
because you are shallow. Just because of who you are as a person too, like you go there. And you and I hung out once and we went there.
I know.
I mean, it was just like in a room
I
full of
know.
like 6 people. It was like me and you were
Oh,
like,
yeah.
let's talk religion.
Yeah, let's talk theology, shall we?
At
Yeah, I
lunch.
mean, like
Yeah.
we went, so like
I know.
you're a special girl. So
Thank you.
yeah.
So for people who don't know you, Kay, please give us your version of your life in the entertainment industry in brief.
Yeah. Some people are turning this on being like, who's Kay Bess?
Well, I am 62, so I don't know how brief you can make it.
What?
You know what I mean?
You're 62?
I am. I just turned 62 in March.
Wow.
I don't feel
Okay.
60.
I'm going to go
Cheers.
jump out the window.
Cheers.
No, you look like you're in your 30s.
Here's to the AARP.
Mm.
My trip through the entertainment industry started pretty young. And I started as a singer, a jingle singer actually in my teens in Santa Barbara. And that was where my first tiny taste of voiceover came from. I sang jingles, and there were a couple advertising agencies in Santa Barbara that I worked for, and every once in a while they'd say, can you read that little part? Can you just read that little part in between the, and I'd go,
For
sure,
free?
yeah. Oh my, I was just a, local demo singer. I was like, sure. I mean, I don't know. They paid me $50. I was totally thrilled, in 1979.
In the 1900s?
Yeah, in the 1900s. Yeah. So that's kind of where I got my first taste of it. But I was really a singer, and I didn't think of it as voiceover. He didn't even say it was voiceover. It was just, can you read that? They called it a donut. It went in between the jingle verses, and it was like a hole in the middle. Right. And so, so I, oh my gosh, this is where, are you ready to go deep? Like, we'll go
Yes.
deep really soon. Okay. So my road to voiceover was a really rough one. Like, it was rough. From the time I was 19, I ended up through a series of things getting a demo deal with CBS Records, back in
For
the day.
singing.
Yes, as a singer, which is, akin to being hip pocketed in voiceover. It's like they haven't signed you, but they'll record a single, and a B-side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember those, but
Of course.
We all remember the B
okay,
side.
all right. So, and then and if they like it, they'll release it and they'll see how it goes. And if it goes well, then you'll do a record.
The
That
next
was
step. Yeah.
that's right. So I won't give you all of the sort of details, but I was sexually assaulted by the music
Oh,
director on this project.
oh my
And the
gosh.
project was, and I couldn't even have defined it as such until like 10 years,
Mm.
and
Of
I
course
was,
you couldn't,
I
because
was
no one
trying
had
to,
language for that back then.
yeah, and I was trying to get to the bottom of, other stuff in my life with a therapist. And she's, so we're traveling the history, and I told her about this thing, and she's like, yeah, yeah. And she used the word rape, which I was like, oh, I can't use that word. I can't. I mean, it was so strange,
Right.
but I ended up landing on that for it being sexually assaulted because I could let that settle in me. You know what I mean? It's a strange,
You were able to swallow what happened to you, the way,
yeah, yeah,
process
and
it.
like, and
Yeah.
yeah, and say, yes, that's what happened, like
Yeah.
to sort of affirm that. So
Okay. I'm so
needless to
sorry.
say that, thank you. It's so old. It's so old,
I'm really
but
glad you
But it
shared though.
stays with
Wow.
us.
Thank
it
you.
does. And
I
and
mean,
and that and it's a really interesting piece of the whole
Mm-hmm.
journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
and can
And
I just say, it's not every man, but it is every woman.
just about, I gotta
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
every woman I know,
So
yeah,
that's why we're really happy that you're sharing this with us,
yeah,
because
Yeah.
it's going to help so many women.
yeah. It's a really, you know, what a time, what a crazy thing. And the fact that I left there. I mean, the whole thing fell apart, right? It all fell apart. And along with it, all my recording dreams and all my idealistic thing, my
Mm,
ideas about, oh, this is the path I'm on,
mm,
and this is my destiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is that's what it was from the time I was 9. I was a singer. That's what I got attention for. It was like, that was my destiny. And it was like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing fell apart. I mean, the players on this little record were, I don't know if you know these guys, but Leland Sklar, who's James Taylor's bass player
Wow.
through the 70s and 80s, and Carlos Vega was a drummer,
oh my
God rest his
gosh.
soul, but really great session players that I grew up with reading on the back of albums, and I couldn't believe that they were on my little record,
Yeah.
so it was such a magnificent possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so a year later, I made my way to USC. I auditioned for the BFA acting program at USC, and my grades were good. My SATs were really bad, and I got in the school by virtue of an audition. So I spent 2 years there, and I was, I was insecure, and I smoked a lot. I did a lot of smoking. I
Mm-hmm.
smoked a lot, and was just anxious. I had the nameless dreads, and at the beginning of my junior year, I had a panic attack that I didn't have a name for it, right? I just was like, I got to get out of here. I can't be in this room. I'm sweating. Something's wrong with me. And I left school and I never went back. And so I never finished my degree in acting. And in those next couple of years, I thought, well, if I'm an actor, I should go do that thing. You know, I should update my headshots and read through drama log and audition for things and try to find an agent and, you know, do all of those things. But I was, you know, I was depressed and I was anxiety ridden and like immobilized. Like I couldn't really function. I I smoked a lot. I smoked between 2 and 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I did a lot of
Oh my
cocaine.
gosh.
I was like really promiscuous, you know, it was like the 80s and it was like and you know, you throw yourself into whatever thing in order to kind of disappear, you know.
And you're in your early 20s now?
Yes, I'm in
Yeah, that sounds about
I'm
right for early 20s, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
all those feelings of, yeah,
yeah,
and early and 80s. Hello.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
80s. So I ended up, I'm so, this sounds like such a horrifying story, but
No.
so I ended up at some point getting a call from a manager, and I don't remember this guy's name, but he was like, "I'd like to meet with you." I'm like, "Great, you know, fantastic." He's like, "And I'll be wanting to read a scene with you, so you know, just know that one. I'll have the script here when you get here." And you know, like, okay. So I go, and it's you know, in some high-rise building in Hollywood. Not to say that it's, I mean, the 80s in Hollywood were sketch, you know, that it was not good, you know. And so I went into this office and it was like it looked like a detective office, you know, from the late 70s, like dark and shut the blinds and you know,
Oh
dark
my God.
furniture. It's gross, you know. So, but I'm like, okay, well, he's a manager and he's interested in, you know, and so we read this scene and reading along, you know, and it's like it's a really provocative scene, right? And
Oh
he's
no.
in the other role, and he just at one point he just like starts taking off his pants,
Oh
right?
my God.
And then he's like, "Come
Fucking
on,
men.
like you know, like it's in the scene. Come on!" And I'm like, I like I can't. I can't remember how I left, but I
Wow.
left. And I walked out of there feeling like I don't have what it takes. Like I can't even engage the script. Like I had friends who were doing films who had partial nude scenes. Like, what's my problem? Why can't I? Like, I'm clearly not committed. I'm not a committed actor, you know. So
Mm.
I left there just like I am nothing. I'm like a fraud. I'm like, I'm clearly not supposed to be
Oh,
an actor, you know,
oh my
all of that,
gosh.
right? So somewhere in there, you know, I'm looking through drama log and I see this advertisement for a voiceover workshop, which nobody taught voiceover. And I
Mm.
didn't, you know, now everybody teaches everywhere, you know. But it was like voiceover. I feel like I did that, you know, like in Santa Barbara, you know, I had, but my real thought was, oh, I think I'd be safe there. That
Mhm.
was my thought, right? Like I know
Mhm.
how to be behind a microphone from having been a singer. And like nobody's going to look at me and nobody's going to ask me to take my clothes off. And
Mm.
no, you know,
Mm.
I'm
You
just,
hope.
yeah, you hope, right? Um, you, I'm just going to go and read, you know.
Mm.
And I went to this class and uh and there was a casting director there. Um, Donna Ross was her name. And she contacted me the following Monday and she said, I think you would be good at this. And I'd like to submit, she said, I'm going to submit you on a project for Levi's. And she did. And a couple days went by and she's like, they really loved you. They cast somebody else, but they really were impressed, you know? And she said, I think you should take a class, like a real class. And she said, and I'm going to point you to Tom Pinto.
Really?
Yes.
Get out.
My very first voiceover class was with Tom Pinto.
Wow.
I I took
Oh
I guess it was a
my.
4 or 6 week class, and you know, in beginning commercial. And after the 6 weeks, he goes, you just need to make a demo. And he said, and I'm happy to help you. So I made a demo with Tom, and he said, and it was on reel to reel, right? That's how far back we're going.
Right.
Right. So
for those of us who don't know what reel to reel is, you want to explain it? It's just
tape that goes around.
Tapes that goes around. We're spinning our fingers for those of you listening.
And we use a razor blade to edit.
Anyway, yeah,
yeah,
that's how you
razor
edit.
blade and tape.
With a razor blade.
Mm-hmm.
So we make the demo. He's like, all right, you're gonna need some artwork for your case. And I'm like, artwork? Like what? I don't, And he said, yeah, just something with your name on it. And you can go to this printer and they can blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, what do I know? I looked at his, right? I looked at the artwork on his, and I went into the thing and I go, can you just do that? Can you just with my name and in a different color? So he had this demo box, this demo box that was red. It was red, like red sort of diagonal stripes across, and there was like a white spot in the middle where his name was in cursive, So they did the exact same thing.
Was it like Flashdance, like the way Flashdance was written,
Kinda, a little bit like that. It was like,
yeah,
it had like a whoosh to it, and
yeah.
So here I have this demo. I sent it to 3 agents. I didn't know anybody from anybody. So I was like, who should I send it to? And he's like, well, here are the top 3 agents. Like, I'll send it to them, So, and I got a call from William Morris, who was starting to build their scale department. They had a celebrity department. Nina Niesenholz was the head of the department, and she was building scale, right? So I went in and talked to her, and she's like, we'd love to have you. And inside of a month, I booked my first spot, a radio spot for Mitsubishi, and off to the races. Like,
oh my gosh.
That's how that went. And 6 months later, I moved over to Sandy Schnarr Talent, a boutique agency. And I was with Sandy for 12 years. And then I moved over to Sutton Barth and Venari, and I was there for 8 or 9 years. And then I moved to Atlas, and I've been with Atlas ever since. But and I had a positively upward trajectory until about 2000, where I was like, wow, I arrived. I have hit the jackpot. Like I am making so much money I can't even count it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, every year since, 1986, I've just been climbing. And in 2000, it was like, oh, like I had hit this pinnacle of earning, and then I dropped off, and then I leveled off, for a good long while, but, and so, in a nutshell, it's a really big nut. Right? Voiceover for me was like a dream. Like,
feels to me like a lifesaver.
Yeah, it was a refuge and a lifesaver. And over the course of years, it really built my confidence back. It made me feel like, remember, like that you started this whole thing with a nugget of talent, and a couple people decimated it, before I even began, had begun. And over the course of years, I was affirmed. I was affirmed by it. Everywhere I went, it was like, you're good at this. You're good at this. Try this. You're good at that too, and that's sort of how it's been. I've absolutely been on the roller coaster ride that is a voiceover career. No, I'm in a total slump right now, like that never stops, but you keep at it, and you keep doing the things that to do. And, but in a nutshell, that's what it was. And I suppose that is when I contemplated this question, it was like that. I thought that is the root of my love of this, that it's been so very kind to me and good to me and affirming to me. And that too is, I think, the root of, and I guess we'll get to this eventually, but that's a really big part of my coaching. And I think that's why, I think that's a piece. So
Sure.
So I'll stop talking now.
I thank
Like,
you so much for sharing that. I think
Yeah.
that is going to help so many of us take a look
Well,
at our own journeys and our own things that have happened to us in our past and see where it's landed us.
well,
I do have a quick question. What happened in 2000 where you were on this trajectory and then you felt like, oh, is that when the union went on strike?
you know,
Or
well, the year 2000 was the great commercial strike, but
I
that was
meant
my
that.
best year. 1999, 2000, and 2001 were my best years in the industry financially, right? And financially, I think because of a lot of things, all the work was union. And so if you booked a television commercial, you got residuals and you got cable pay and you got, so what had happened in 1999 before the strike, I had been hired as the voice of Hyundai. And Perry Gilpin was doing the brand imaging for Hyundai in those years. And I did all the dealer spots across the country. And so it's all union. There's class A payment on it. I made a few $100,000 off that campaign for a couple of years, I mean, I got my session fees, which had a lot of spots and it had a lot of tags, and you're paid for all those tags. And then they they recorded all these commercials just before the commercial strike. So the union struck, but they could run what they had in the bank, right? So they just ran the hell out of that stuff. So all through the strike, I was just swimming in residuals, right? At the same time, I booked a syndication package. I don't know if they even do those anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if they do those anymore.
It's like, after a first run of a show on a network, then they sell the show to all the to all the syndicated stations. And then to get a syndicated package meant that you went in to record, a minimum of 5 to 10 spots per week, for a year, right? And it's usually contracted, and there's usually a number set to that. It's like, okay, this contract is worth $200,000. And so we're going to record as many spots as we can under that $200,000 thing. But if there's more, then you get paid for those too, right? It's just that we think that there'll be a minimum of that. That's what we're expecting. You're guaranteed $200,000. If we record less, you'll still get your 200, right? But it was ridiculous. And so I had that. I had Hyundai. So I was working in promo like a mad woman. Syndicated packages are considered promo. That's right. So that's why it was like I had this windfall. And then of course, I did Hyundai for 2 years, and then they choose somebody else, like they do. So that went away. And then the package went away. And then syndicated packages just kind of started to die off. And then everything changed with internet. And, the first 15 years of my career or at least 10, had no internet. There was no internet.
Right.
So, we had pagers, and we carried quarters in the car so that if we were paged by our agents, we could stop and find a payphone, to call back to see what they were paging us about, so no cell phones yet or anything like that. So I think it's just, it was a part of the roller coaster of a career, but I happened to just it happened to be a colossal, it was like, I went really high on that in that span of time. And then truly I leveled out at a totally respectable, coveted, earning decade,
Sure.
but it just wasn't that and I had really only heard of that kind of money making with men, and a very few women, usually represented by Jeff Danis, at ICM at the time. So So that was really what that was. And I'd gotten all those things at SBV, like 3 years after I signed with SBV. That's when it. So my career like really took off under their guidance. So
Wow. So much.
I know.
So much.
I love your story. Go
We
ahead.
need to
What were you
take a
gonna say?
break to like
Okay.
process this. And we're gonna ask Kay how voiceover now has changed because it is so different. She talked about the early 2000s, but now, 10 and then 20 years later, approaching voiceover and marketing is so different. So we'll ask her that when we come back. We're going to just cut to a quick promo. All right, popping in with our speechless promo in between the show. Hope you're loving it. We were loving that interview. Thank you to our sponsors, StudioBricks. We love you, StudioBricks. And Vocal Booth to Go. We love you too. Thank you so much for being our sponsor. We appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, we've got something coming up in August. August 3rd, specifically, one day only. It's a pop-up casting workshop. You want to get to know casting directors? If you watch this show, you'll know why. We have 3 educational opportunities on August 3rd. Sign up on our website, speechlessvo.com, and you will find all the details there for sign up to attend.
Yeah, the casting directors, Marilyn Wisner, the 2 casting directors at The Voice Caster, and
Hello?
Christine Paiva. So excited to have them. But then you're also getting meals. You're getting a full lunch. You're getting a cocktail party. You're getting all the drinks, including coffee service, but wine,
get a
beer, all the
recording.
things.
You
Yeah.
get the recording
So-
of the event as well.
Okay, so was that enough? I think maybe that was enough to share, but we also want to share one more thing, and that is our Speechless Secret Society. So the really great thing about that group is that once a month we get together and we talk about wins and challenges and give advice to each other, and then we also do some educational things that raises the bar for everyone. So
It's a safe place.
Check out speechlessvo.com, and we'll see you on the other side. So we're back with Kay Bess, and that was quite the journey she took us on. And so I don't know how riveting the next portion will be because voiceover has essentially been completely disrupted, certainly since Kay had her heyday. And whether it's non-union or technology or volume of people, computers, just in general, because now everyone thinks they can do voiceover because they have a computer and a voice. So, Kay, can you give us a hint on how you approach your business now that is so much different than how you used to approach it?
Yes,
Well,
please.
in a way, it's not different from how I approach it. I mean, the way that I still work is fundamentally it's the same. I am represented. I have agents who provide opportunity for me to audition. That's how it always was for me and how it continues to be. The other things surrounding it are different in that they don't call to schedule me to come in and read. They send everything through email, just like everybody else gets. I record myself, like we all do, which prior to that, you'd go into your agent's office and you'd step into their booth and they would direct you and they would record you and then you would leave. And I think that a really big piece of why I think I am still relatively successful in the booth directing myself is because I had so many years of being directed by someone else. And I grew really accustomed to making sure that when I walked in the booth, I was ready to go and they would do 2 takes and that's all. That's all you get. You don't sit and belabor anything. They've got people waiting to come in, right? So it's like you have to have read everything. You don't do your script analysis in the booth. That's all done in the lobby. And so I feel like that continues to be a part of the way that I work. I don't belabor any copy and I don't attach myself to it. I just read it and I move on with my day. So it's really the technical things that have changed, but the manner in which I secure work is by virtue of being given opportunity from my agents and then I better be good enough to book it. And that's my responsibility, right? Is to turn in good auditions. And so that's the same. I have ventured now and again into pay to play sites. I'm up right now on Voice 123. And I'm there largely because in my coaching, I send people to that site to various and sundry reasons. And I thought last year, I'm like, how I get you have to know what that site is like in order to send people there. That's like, what are you doing? I mean, I was on the site really early, like in 2010 or somewhere. And it was very different then, you know. But you know, it's a piece of why I did your course, which is a great course, by the way. And I send people to it all the time because it's a really good course. So I'm there, and sometimes I audition there, but I tend to do the stuff that my agent sends. You know,
Sure.
and if something comes along for me that I find interesting, then I'll audition. But you know, I'm a part of the algorithm like everybody else. It's you know, and I bought sort of a middle tier, you know, and so the thing that's really different is how much I work, you know, and how much more I have to audition in order to work.
That's what I wanted to ask. Yeah.
It is, as you say, right, that the internet and people at home and you know, all across the country, all across the world, who might now be reading on the same things as you. So back in the day, you know, I would read against the same 10 people, the same 10 women, you know, and it was sort of like, well, whose turn is it today? You know, everybody was qualified, everybody was good, everybody had their sound, and everybody could do the job, you know. And so again, there's a level of detachment that comes with that. At least for me. I know there were people who were like, you know, just like harangued their agents, like, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? Am I shortlisted? And it's like, those are the people that agents are like, oh my God, leave us alone, you know? But I never did. I always saw my job as to audition. And so I never harangued anybody. I just thought if I got a call and I got booked or put on a veil, that was like, oh, what a happy day, you know?
A lot of people say like, you audition and then you walk away and then you don't think about it. Was that always your?
Always.
Always.
Always. I felt so lucky to get auditions. I felt so lucky to get auditions. Like just the opportunity to read was everything to me. That's it. That's it. And I do think that is a huge part of my sanity over the last almost 40 years. That I just, if I were to have judged myself or my talent based on my percentages, I would have quit long ago. It's like, what? If I read 10 things and I only book one, like that doesn't sound very good, you know?
Right.
But that's the average, and that's a great average.
Yes,
you know?
it is.
It's a fantastic. Now it's like 1 in 100, maybe.
Maybe. That's what
Maybe.
another a contemporary of your, Carrie Tombasian, she was like, it could be 1 out of 300. You know, Lori Allen, 1 out of 400. That's a good year.
Totally. I you know, I tell people in my Facebook group, like I told them once, I'm like, I'm going to count how many auditions that I had this year. And then I'm going to count how many new bookings I had, new bookings, right? Because I have a couple of affiliates. So yeah, I work every month.
Sure.
Okay. But I booked that 4 years ago. I can't really call it a booking, if you will, you know, and it's ridiculous. I can have 900. Last year was really shy, but the year before it's like between 900 and 1,000 auditions. And I feel like I had maybe 10 new bookings, maybe.
That's so reassuring though to everyone listening that we're not crazy making ourselves.
Yeah,
because it does feel crazy making
totally.
when you're like always the bridesmaid. Oh
Yes.
yeah, you're really competitive. You're really competitive, Kim. And I'm like, am I?
Well,
Because
I
I'm
want to put
drinking at night.
a dose of reality is that there are a lot more auditions because there's a lot more work. There's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
corporate work, but
Absolutely.
it's a lot
Sure.
lower end. So when you, Kay, talk about these jobs, you are auditioning for high-end jobs. I mean, 900 to 1,000 is a lot of auditions, but you're hoping to hit it and hit it big with a great job. Now, where we are on online casting and whatnot, these jobs are way smaller. So if you're not booking more than 1 in 10, that's concerning from an income standpoint. Because if it's a big
Absolutely.
job, you're covering a lot of ground. It's a little job,
Yeah.
boy, you're waiting a long time to pay your
Yeah.
rent.
Well, and I mean, how do we define a big job versus a
Mm.
little job?
Mm,
Because
Well,
I read for a lot of little jobs, like not everything I read for is some national network thing or,
right.
it's so my income has drastically dropped in the
mhm.
last, you know,
For many reasons, for many
except when
reasons.
I
Yeah.
get like a thing, like a miracle job, like Star Trek Picard, right? Like that was a miracle job to me,
Hmm.
and I made my insurance that year because of it. But
Hmm.
like, it's like I'm gearing up. Like, am I going to make my insurance? I mean, I did through 2025, June 2025, but
Yay.
like the new earnings cycle starts April 1, and it's like, okay, you
Here we
know.
go. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to know. I think that I think all of I think all of voiceover has income has dropped.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
it's it's truly rarefied air
Hmm.
that books you know, a promo gig for NBC where
Hmm.
you're on a show or like that has truly become rarefied air. Like
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
used to be in that game. I'm not in that game anymore, and I'm still pretty good at doing promos,
I bet.
like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I mean, and commercials again in 2000. Sorry, in 1999, because that in 2000 is where it really shifted. Everything was union in
Hmm.
19.
Mm,
So every single commercial that came across, that I got a phone call for that came across my desk was union. It's not
Hmm.
anymore. 80 to 90% is now non-union.
Hmm.
So income has drastically dropped. And so what looks like, if some commercial, some national network commercial not comes across, non-union and they say this pays $30,000, like every last one of us, including me, goes, that's a really good payday. But when it's a non-union $30,000 job, it was probably a union $250,000 job, So everybody's
that's
income.
huge.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, Class
Hmm.
A run was just the best thing ever. If you recorded two TV commercials in a year, you were cool. You were good. You know, you were good for the year. You made your insurance 1,000%, right? And you could live. You could pay your rent or your mortgage and your car payment, and
Hmm.
and and it I except again for a very, very small percentage of people, it's not like that anymore. It's just not.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, it's a
um,
lot of different kind of a hustle.
yeah,
It is
So
a different
in
kind of hustle.
your coaching, so now, I mean, you bring so much to the table as a coach.
Mm,
And so you also have to integrate the realities of auditioning nowadays and what a good ratio is or whatever. But please give us a sell on your coaching. Sorry to make it sound like that, but this is your opportunity to share with our audience your coaching, and how it's different from other coaching or just simply what your coaching is about.
yeah. Well, my coaching has sort of uh, gone through a metamorphosis in the last few years. And I haven't really been coaching all that long. I started coaching kind of in the mid two, 210s. How do you say that? Like
Two tens? I don't know. The
2015-ish,
tens
you know,
in
so
Teens,
like
2010s.
a decade. I've been coaching, and then things really shifted after I gave the keynote at
VO Atlanta.
Oh,
Atlanta.
yes, that was
That was
beautiful.
a big shift for me, and it shifted what coaching meant, to me too. And so I think I started to teach sort of whatever anybody needed. If you needed some promo coaching, I would do that. If you needed some commercial coaching, I would do that. And I wasn't well versed with video games or animation because I was new at them and a student of them myself. And I'm still a student of animation. I wouldn't venture to teach that. Video games, I feel like I have a bit more of a handle on, but I don't advertise that. Like, and really I don't really teach technique anymore.
Mm.
I will do brand imaging television commercials, which is a true subset of a genre. Like it's a tiny little piece of a thing.
Mhm.
And commercials more and more across the board are starting to incorporate that kind of a read. So it's not so nichey anymore, right? And I need to sort of adapt that reality to what I coach there, and not bill it as being so nichey because it's really not.
Mm.
But I really only do that in workshops. I don't do that one-on-one anymore. It's too labor intensive, and people really learn from other people in the group far more than they can learn one-on-one. So it's really, really beneficial, and it's much more cost effective and all those things, right? So
Mhm.
what I've landed on really is, in a phrase, it's more like career coaching, if you will. Um, and what that means to me is that I get a lot of people who are lost, and they say, I've been doing this and nothing's happening and I don't know what to do and I feel like I don't have any talent and I don't, they just are like out in the ocean, kind of on a raft, and like I don't know what direction I'm going. And then I get a lot of people who are like, I just made a bunch of demos and they're not me. I don't know what to do,
Oh,
and they're not, and they're lost, right? And so the first thing that I try to do is encourage them that they're not really lost, that they just need some focus and some reality checks, right? And my number one thing really is to be of encouragement.
mm,
And and I love the phrase, and I've used it over and over and over again. It's a quote from Arthur Ashe, which is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Mhm.
And so I repeat that over and over and over.
Yep.
When people come to me and say, somebody told me that I better be careful if I make a demo because, you only have one chance at a first impression. But how do I start if I don't make a demo? And if I have to have all this experience before I do a demo, how do I begin? And I go, again, like, record yourself doing something. Like, record a spot. If you know how, or if you know someone who can put some music behind it, get yourself up on a profile on Voice 123, engage the algorithm, learn the site, and begin to receive auditions. And just start. Just start. It's your first demo. It's not your last.
mm,
Like, I haven't made a commercial demo in 30 years. I
mm,
I just I work, and if there's something I like, I go, oh, I think I'll put that on my demo. And I
Mhm.
sometimes it's an audition. And I
Mhm.
go, I really like that audition. I didn't book the thing, but I really like that. And I call my friend Kevin Cleland and I go, can you put some soundscaping on that? And he's like, yeah. He sends it back to me in 30 minutes. And I go, all right, I'm going to put it on my demo. And all of a sudden my video game demo is a little more fleshed out. And that's how it should work, in my opinion. Right. But that's what I do in coaching. I try to say, you're all right. It's okay. And I am not of the mind that it is my job to tell someone whether they should or should not do voiceover.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stepping on anybody's dream.
Mm-hmm.
The market will do its job,
Right.
you know? And people obviously are more and less talented.
Mm-hmm.
We have more or less an affinity for the work. But there are all kinds of avenues by which to do voiceover that require different levels of skill. And so who am I to say to somebody, don't ever do it. Like holding someone at the level of skill and industry where I've been for 30 years, 40 years isn't fair. It's not fair. I don't know where that person is going to work. I don't know. I want to encourage them to be the best that they can be with what they have and see where it all plays out and to not spend too much money trying to figure it out, But I do think that the market does its job, and people who are good at it will do the lion's share of the work, So that's not up to me. It's not up to me. But if somebody comes to me, I had a coaching client come to me with several demos that someone she had coached with did for her for free, which was really generous of this person. And she said, I've gotten some feedback on them that they all sound the same and I need variety, or that my voice sounds the same on everything and I need variety. So I just was like, well, let me listen to them, if I may. She's like, okay. So she sent them, and her commercial demo was, 3.5 minutes long.
What?
I was like, well, no kidding. All sounds the same. I'm thinking to myself, right? It's too long. You've got 8 pieces that are 30 seconds each. It's like it's too long. So I just in 45 minutes, I edited her demo down to 1 minute and 5 seconds, and I sent it back to her and I go, that demo is you. These are all different spots. It needed to move. It needed pacing, right? We're not here on a commercial demo to show every last bloody thing that we can do in commercials. We're supposed to show who we are, And there you are. There you are in a minute. And she was like, oh my God. And she was like, I feel like I can start. And I'm like, like that is what it's about. That's what it is, So that's what I like to do in coaching. And so it's totally tailored to the individual. Whatever their story is, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, it's like, how can I help you? That's really it. It's always my first question, right? Like, how can I help you? That's what I want to do. How can I help you?
And where you are, use what you have. Yep. Love it.
Do what you can. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Do what you can. I always get it messed up.
Thank you so much, Kay.
Hey, cheers to you.
Such an inspiration. Wow. We love you.
Thank you for having me.
This episode of Speechless is brought to you by
Voice talent need quiet.
For us, quiet comes in the form of a StudioBricks booth.
I love my StudioBricks because it's whisper quiet in my incredibly noisy neighborhood.
And I love my booth because when clients see me on Zoom, they know I'm a pro.
Go to StudioBricks.com.
World-class sound isolation, light environmental footprint. Kim, have you ever made a pillow tent in your hotel room when a client asks for an audition or a job when you're away?
Yes, and I know what you're going to say. VOMO, the VO mobile booth, right?
Right, exactly. It's a portable vocal booth and ready for recording wherever and whenever. I feel like I really need that because I get nervous about pillow forts. So why do we need it then?
Because it folds up very nice and neat and you can take it with you wherever you go.
Absolutely. And you can check it easily, which I've done many times. And also it comes with accessories like a light, and you can position your mic however you want.
No more pillow forts, please.
Yes, please. Vocalbooth2go.com for VO recording and accessories.
Speechless.